So we saw read CSV. We'll review that now, and then we'll see read Excel as well. Um, so we have this file teams.csv that we just created. We can read that file, and we're going to specify the index column as 0. So we're specifying the index column because when we saved it, by default, it saved the index column as a column, and when we read it, if we had just done read CSV here, it's actually going to create another index column because by default that's the behavior. I didn't even save this as anything. I'm just showing you. So we want to specify the index column as 0. And as we saw before, we can specify the data types as well. So by default, we have these 3 data types, but if we want to specify the data types when we import, we can do 2 things. We can specify that all data types will have the same, all columns will have the same data type, which in this case will be object or string. We can also pass a dictionary which says the data type for each column. So we can say we want team to be object, random to be a float, and integers to be an integer. So we can view what that does here. So if we look at this one where we said dtype equals object, you can see each column is object. But we can also specify exactly which data types we want, and it will convert those accordingly. And when we read CSV, we can also pass this separator argument. So we can read CSV, and just like toCSV, we can specify if it's actually tab delimited. So in this case, this is a tab delimited file, but it works just fine because we specified this separator. So we can also make a 5th one here, read Excel. Okay, we need another module. So this is so reading and writing require different modules. So same thing, we'll do the same thing as before. So XLRD is the name of this package. So we're going to go back to our terminal here, which has the Python 3 environment. We're going to do conda install XLRD. Okay, so we type yes, so if we type yes, it should work because it uses a regular expression thing. Did that work? Maybe not. Okay, yeah, it did work. For some reason, it didn't give me the progress bar, but so we should be good. So we go back here. Yeah, so now we can read Excel. Yeah, so the default behavior here is a little different. It does seem to use the index column as 0 even if I don't enter it. But if we wanted to use the team name as the index column, then you can see that it will now swap these rows. It can take any column in your data frame and use that as the index column. So just one other thing, we've talked about timestamps and date time objects before. This pandas data type, but in this case, if we want to, and we saw how we can have, depending on whether it's the if it's the index or just a regular column, we have different behavior if we convert it to a date time object. But what we can do is, let's say we're going back now to this Scripps peer data, and we have this column date, which is actually a date and a time. So we can use this pandas function toDateTime to convert this column to a datetime object. So this is a series now, which has just a regular numerical index, but you can see now the values have been changed and inferred as datetime object. And so what we can do is just take that series and store that as the column. So we're going to overwrite this column date with this series that we just made called time. And now we can see that we've changed the value here. We can also do that when we import the CSV file initially. But if we hadn't done that, we can use a method like this to change the date time to something more, something that pandas will understand as a date time object and be able to use that information to our advantage. So that's the end of the lesson. We'll cover a lot more stuff next time. Are there any questions before we wrap up today? If not, I'll stick around after class, but I'll see you next time.